Meeting's open in accordance with Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, or OML. Public bodies otherwise governed by the OML are temporarily relieved from the requirement that meetings be held in public spaces, open and physical, accessible to the public, so long as measures are taken to ensure public access to the body's deliberations through adequate alternative means. This meeting will be live on Zoom. The public may participate remotely by joining Zoom, meeting ID 883-1596-7294, or by calling 929-205-6099. For additional information about remote participation, please contact Carly Antonellis, Assistant Town Manager at ATM at ayer.ma.us, or 978-772-8220, extension 100, prior to the meeting during business hours. Okay. Now that we got all of that, do we have any public input? Okay. Then we can go to the prior meetings minutes. Let me get that up here. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes? I made a highlight, on this time right here. It just says 7-0. I assume that means 7-0-0. The only other comment that I wanted to add is, I spoke to Andrea and I highlighted this part of the minutes where it says that they're looking for someone to take over the program after the spring session. So that would be spring 2024. Andrea said, nope, I'm not being pushed out. I would like to stay. So the minutes should reflect that it would be after the spring session of 2025. She would be giving up that role. So those are the two things that I saw.
I'm good with it otherwise.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good with it as well. I can make a motion to approve the meetings November 14th, Parks Department.
Seconded.
As amended?
As amended, yep.
Yeah, sorry, as amended. Yeah, we just discussed as amended. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Chair, I can have that. Get that and Sarah and then there's nothing else.
Wow, Jeff, your audio is really bad.
Yeah.
You may want to just log out, come back in.
Right.
Yeah, it got worse. It got more garbled.
All right. Let me try.
Okay. All right. Well, we had a motion to accept as amended and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
So we have to do roll call. So I'll say Christopher is chair. Aye.
Jerry Amenta, aye.
Kevin Molentik, aye.
Jason Mayo, aye.
Good. All right. So projects, I know Jeff just kind of hopped off and hopefully we'll be hopping back on. Most of these things, unfortunately, have to do with him. So we can go, well, I was going to say out of order, but that would bring us all the way down to basketball. Or we can just wait give him like a minute to kind of hop back on. Otherwise, I can move down to basketball if everyone's okay with that.
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
Okay. Again, assuming that he's just trying to reset his,
Yeah, I mean, we can give him a minute, but
yeah. I think his office was flooded and he was underwater. That's what it sounded like.
Well, let's get the scuba gear and head on over, guys.
Yeah, no. Yeah, usually, he hasn't had any issues, at least, well, going back now, what, a year and a half since we've last done Zoom? But, oh, all right, well, he just said he's rebooting, so it's gonna take a while. About 5 minutes, so, I'll move on to basketball then, unless there's anything else that anyone sees on there before basketball that we should hit, but it looks like that's all kind of Jeff driven stuff. Okay. So with basketball, AYB, Jeff runs AYB, does it well. When he hops back on, he can speak to anything, any issues that he might be seeing. There was something that he himself should discuss because I've been involved in it, but he's been, more involved with just trying to get Shirley, SYB in the 3-4 divisions to kind of mesh up together. I know there was a couple, growing pains kind of things. We've been forced to combine the Shirley and the Ayer at 3-4 due to the lack of gym space. So, as with anything, there's going to be some, friction sometimes. So that's the only thing I can think of, which again, when Jeff comes back on, he can speak to that a little bit. I think it's been smoothed over, but I haven't talked to him about this past weekend.
This is Kevin. I just saw a comment on, well, I'm at it right now.
Yeah.
But the last Saturdays have been, at least from where I sit, have been phenomenal. Just
Okay.
the coaches having Shirley there, it's awesome. Like, because the crowd gets into it and everybody has a lot of fun. So I think it's, so far from my point of view, it's going very well.
And I think that's what we kind of wanted to do in the past few years, was to include Shirley. But when you have two different commissions, it makes it, people have different ideas of how to do things. So it's one of those things, kind of like what COVID did to us. It forced the issue. And I think overall it's a better way to go. However, it's trying to navigate our way there. And there's going to be some issues here and there. But from what I understood, they weren't anything that was, horrible to deal with. All right. So there's no other comments besides when Jeff comes back about that. I'll move to ASYB. And the season is underway. We finished the first 2 weeks. I think everything is gone as well as it can, considering that we're really kind of crunched for space. But other than the small kind of things I'm not even going to bring up, it's been a really good success. I think all the kids are having a good time. So they don't even know any difference for the most part. A couple things with ASYB is tomorrow is rec night. I've been working pretty closely with the school to try to bring a partnership with the school's varsity programs with rec. Really, it's been something we've been trying to work for. I've made great inroads with the girls varsity coach, sat down with him for an hour, had a great conversation. He agreed that they need to have a bigger presence with the rec program. So I told him, let's pick a night that we will promote, have all the rec kids go to. So tomorrow night at 5 o'clock at the Ayer Shirley Middle School, Girls varsity will be taking on Littleton. And work with Steve Kendall, where it's free admission for any rec player wearing their jersey and bringing a canned donation to Loaves and Fishes. And parents of rec players can get in with their own donation. So I've been feverishly kind of working on that this afternoon, trying to get donation boxes together, signs. The kids are going to be part of warm-ups. So I talked to Corey Phillips, and he said, yeah, that's a great idea. Get the kids out there, slapping hands with the players as they're coming on the court, standing out there during the national anthem, getting them really involved. And I see this, if this all works out, as a big win for both programs. So it's something that I've been working hard on, and I think it will be a success. We'll see tomorrow. But and that's for the girls' side. I have not heard back from Rick Kilpatrick on the boys' side. Obviously, would love to have this partnership with them too, but right now it's just, I've only been talking with Corey Phillips on the girls' side. Other than that, I do want to throw out there that this will likely be my last year chairing the basketball. I would like to do kind of a bridge year. My kids are done next year, so I still have a year left. So that might be a good year for whoever the next person that will chair AYB. I will gladly stay on and help and use all my contacts and information to help you along. Next year, the chair for ASYB reverts to Shirley. So that might help a little bit, or it might hinder, who knows. So it's just something for us to kind of think about going forward. I've done 3 years, and this year has been taxing, and I think I'm about good after this, being the chair. So
Are you running? Are you going to run for re-election for the commission?
I believe so. I think at this point, I will in the spring. So, if I get voted back on the actual Air Parks Commission, then, I'll function fully on Air Parks, but it's just the basketball is, something I'm looking to transition out, but not
for sure.
leave you in a lurch,
So,
help you.
So with my term up, and I'm not running for re-election, it's probably want to see about encouraging somebody that is going to be a basketball parent or something for the next several years to run for my seat, so that way they can fill the chair position.
Yep. Yeah. And I thought the same
Do they
thing.
have to be on the Parks Commission?
No.
To be chair of the AYB and yeah.
Is that because Shirley doesn't have that at all? But that might just be part of their bylaws.
We've always set it up that way, and the reason being is that because the capacity of the park director position to do a lot of the legwork, you didn't want to have so technically we're the boss is essentially, like, we have supervisorial oversight of the park department and the park director. So in order to task the park director with doing things like the registrations, paperwork, and things like that, it really should be a park commissioner. That's the chair of the basketball program.
Okay. I mean, it makes sense.
You guys hear me? Am I on audio at least now?
Yes.
Yeah, we got you, Jeff.
Now I can hear you fine.
Yeah, good. So Jason, that was actually a very good description of the reasoning for that goes back, more than a decade from when the merger first came in, that was an agreement among the Parks Commission to have the chairman of AYB to always be a commissioner, because that there was a lot of things that could get tripped up by having a parks employee being overseen by somebody who's not a commissioner. So that was, that's the reason for it. It doesn't have to be the chairman, of course, but it had to be by the agreement of the Air Parks Department, be one of the commissioners. Shirley can do whatever they want to do. And that, led to some interesting things in the past. But, and that's why for, a good amount of time, they did revert back to having a commissioner do it. And then, they, chose to go with Jared. But, I think that's probably the way to go. It doesn't have to be that way, but it's the current policy. Yes.
I mean, one of the biggest things is that it's the money, right? The registration coming in and out. We're responsible. The commission is responsible for all the funds, budget, revolving fund, money coming in and out of any park commission program. So, the directors are a full-time employee, so that's fine. But when you start bringing somebody, you kind of lose that authority over some of that thing. So
It's hard. It's limiting though, right? You have 5 positions, I think. And then one of them has to be for soccer and one of them has to be for basketball. So it's a hard find, right?
yeah.
Yep. And that's why, I did want to say, not being the chair doesn't mean that I'm not going to be involved. So I can make things. Jeff was amazing. Obviously, my first year, he did most of the stuff because I had no idea what I was doing. And that's how I kind of look at what I can do next year is you're not going to have to try to find a ref assigner. This is the guy. These are the people that you talk to. These are the vendors you use, all that kind of stuff. So, because then after that, I'd probably look to be off or even more, minimalized.
Yeah. I mean, look, future commissions can do whatever future commissions want to do.
Yeah.
Jeff and I are just kind of explaining why it was set up that way. And
that makes sense.
So.
No,
That it is. But I mean, that's something that, in May when we reorder and we'll have a new commissioner, hopefully someone will take Jason's spot and, that's a discussion for then. But I just, wanted to let that kind of be known for anyone, even now, if you're kind of thinking that might be something that you would take on, then I can kind of loop you in on some of the stuff as I'm doing it now. But I always want to have a succession plan involved. So Jeff, I talked about AYB. I brought up about, combining Shirley with the 3-4 groups. Mentioned there was a little bit of an issue there, but you could speak to it better than I could. So if you want to do that.
Certainly. So the 3-4 issue regarding the scrimmages.
Yeah. I know there was kind of a little bit of a thing going on that it sounds like it's been mostly solved, but I at least wanted to mention it.
Yeah, right. So this is not uncommon, but because whenever we start doing mixed scrimmages between the two programs, obviously there's different expectations for different programs. So the Shirley program starts much later. They just started in December. So it's, there was a lot of mixed things and then doing different rules and things like that. So it's always a bit of a challenge to try to get the coaches together from both programs to make sure everyone's on the same page with how we go about our business. I think it's going pretty well. Like I said, after the first week with the girls in particular, they were still trying to figure out the best way to go about how we should, go through the game formats, how long the game should go for, things like that. And that's exacerbated by the fact that we're in Page Hilltop Gym instead of a full-size gym, either the high school or the middle school, because generally that program was run through the high school or the middle school, or both. So obviously, I think everyone understands where the situation is with that. The middle school time slots on Saturdays are all taken up because there is no other option for the older kids to play. So because of that, everything took a big crunch. And I think it's all working out. I really don't think there's much more to go on with that. I'm still assessing how things went for the boys. I think the girls are actually in good shape right now. But the boys, I'm not sure where they're at because I really haven't got a lot of feedback. Unfortunately, some of you may have known, but I was not feeling well this weekend. I couldn't attend many of the sessions. I got most of the sessions started, but then I bowed out after that for physical reasons. But my understanding was that they were a little rocky on the boys' end, but the girls actually cleaned up a little bit. The best news for all of that is that this weekend we're doing a clinic for both the boys and the girls. So that's a good reset for all of this. We do it every year around this time of year. That allows the players from both programs to just kind of play all together and get a good mix and not have that all in your face and parents on the sidelines, come on, play deep. What's the matter with you? You know, get in his face. And and that small gym makes it even worse. So it's it's a great opportunity to do that. And then more importantly, we can get together with all the coaches because, you know, you'd love to do that ahead of time, but, you know, when can you do that? You know, the Shirley program just got their stuff together. So when do we actually meet with all the coaches to do that? The best time to do it is during these clinics. Coaches aren't needed, but they're there anyway. So we'll try to get everything reset then. I expect everything should be running in pretty good shape. And then as far as the other Ayer youth basketball programs, pre-K through 4 and unlimited, everything looks like it's in pretty good shape right now. All the programs are running on full speed, and we got a really good set of coaches at almost every level. So I'm actually very excited for where all those are heading. Thank you.
Good. Very good. All right. So that's basketball. If there's anything left to be said, I'm all set. All right, then we can move back up the agenda to projects and the playground. Jeff, you want to speak to it? I can put up the picture that you sent.
Certainly. So with the playground, we are kind of in a holding pattern with the full size that the contractor is going to be working on. We haven't had any update on when the equipment will be arriving outside of the date that we were given, which is March. And then the contractor is, you know, still putting together his dates that he's going to work on things to coordinate with that equipment arrival. In the meantime, we are continuing with the natural play area. I've been working with Chris and Jason on that, as well as Brad Spinney and Dan to some degree. We've also talked to the building inspector, Charlie, to verify that we're all set with anything we need to do there, and he's on board with everything we're doing. We are hiring a local contractor, Bill Sakeman, who's going to be working as both an advisory role and doing some of the carpentry work for us to make sure that everything's exactly how we want to have it for liability reasons. We want to have some professional work done. And then we expect to actually start doing more than what you see in the picture, start doing some of the framework the week between Christmas and New Year's. So I'm probably going to be putting together an invite for any type of volunteers that wants to come out. Obviously, the weather conditions may be in or out, but that's a good week for me to be able to just pitch in. It's actually my week off, but I'm still going to be able to, pitch in here and there for that. And then Brad's going to be available that week too. So we're hoping to get some work done then, and then, we'll keep on going from there.
Okay. Great. Let's see. And then move on to the volleyball pole.
Yes. So we were able to get that finally complete. We were able to cement it into a container, actually an old trash can, and then bury that in the ground. It feels like it's secure. We'll test it in the spring, of course, but we expected that to work out pretty well and be all set to go when we open up again in the spring.
Good. Looks good. I lost my agenda here. Okay. We have the end of the outdoor season maintenance.
So that's gone pretty well. The biggest thing with that is leaf removal. The issue we've run into is our leaf sucker. This is 20 years old now. We've been doing repairs on it over the years. The biggest problem right now is there's a fan that's actually a leaf mulcher inside the unit. It's a very big piece of equipment. It's actually very expensive to replace, probably over $1,000. It's just, I mean, anyone using an electric razor, you can kind of think about how you have to replace your blades on that once in a while. That's kind of the situation we have with this. It's just, it's not really mulching the leaves very well. So it's sucking them, but it's not really mulching them. So for us to remove all the leaves we have at Peroni Park and then move them to the DPW area to dispose of them, because we can no longer dispose of them in our own area because of concerns for conservation. We, it just takes a long time to do it. And then it also clogs up a lot. So we got most of the leaves out. We got everything that we think we can do for this year. We've already taken our box off the truck because we want that ready to be used for plowing. So most of that's done. All the fields are in good shape. We got those all done. So we're pretty happy with the maintenance, and we're pretty much done with that for the year.
Okay. Good. And the holiday decorations?
The holiday decorations, they are going really well. We have about 50 cutouts that are erected right now, so it's looking pretty nice. We expect to get probably 10 more at least from people who had ordered some and taken them and haven't returned them yet. So it's looking very festive down here. Actually, really happy with the continued effort with that. It was always a question of how much that was going to continue after COVID, because that was a COVID activity. It turns out that people like doing it. So it's been really a fun thing, and really happy to see it continue.
Yeah, no, people love it. I mean, I see it on social media and talking to different people. It's a big hit. People love that. So that's great. Okay. So we're going to move on to finance and the fiscal year 25 budget. Get that up there.
Okay, so as we all know, the budget is something, the annual budget that's we do is due in around this time of year. So our deadline to have it in is supposed to be the end of this month. So we've been just kind of working on it, and it's really not much to work on right now. The biggest thing we have to think about for the actual final submission is that we have talked about creating a new position, an assistant director position. According to the instructions that we were given by the town manager's office, we were not supposed to include any new positions that we're proposing or any raises. So that would include any COLA raises that we normally give to our seasonal employees, which is generally about 2% if there's not a raise in minimum wage. This will be the first time there is no raise in minimum wage in I don't know, probably 5 years, because it's finally reached its $15 max that they wanted to get it to. So anyway, those figures aren't in there yet, but we were able to look at things and, based on projections, keep ourselves level funded from last year's budget. One thing that we did adjust was that our supplies, we just have never seemed to have enough. So we adjusted by taking some money from what was budgeted this year for utilities and some money from the services and adding that to the supplies instead. So in the end, it's the same bottom line and not any differences. The other note that we added to this was, if you look at the football and Little League accounts, and again, these are misnomers. There is no such thing as Little League. We haven't had Little League in this town for over 20 years. That's Ayer Youth Baseball that's run through Cal Ripken. But anyway, that's the title they have. But I did put in the notes for this year that it is, I don't know if you can scroll over, Chris, to see the notes on the far right side. But it's, the note I made is that this is not a Parks Department line item, because I believe that one of the reasons why people never question these line items is because they assume it's a park line item. And I appreciate the sentiment, because I think people really support the Parks Department and a lot of the programs we do. So they don't want to cut out any program funding that we have. But this is just not our funding. These are private organizations. And there's a big difference between the two. One is a local program that is just servicing Ayer children, and one is a program that services not just Ayer and Shirley, but now it's Ayer, Shirley, and Lunenburg. So people can make of it as they will, but I think it's important that people should be understanding this is not a Parks Department item.
Yeah, I agree. Given that extra information is, people can decide what they want to do with it, but at least put it where it shouldn't be, or take it away from where it shouldn't be. Is a good move.
Just a couple of points real quick on, if you don't mind.
Yep.
Excuse me. 25% decrease in the budget for utility services seems like a lot. But if you look, we're going into our third year in our maintenance building where basically most of our utility spend goes. So we kind of have a really good handle on our usage, plus utility costs are coming down. So even like FY23 actuals, that didn't even get to 3,000. And we used, that was a high, that's a good level set for our usage. We're coming into the winter months and we're not even at $1,000 as of the 21st. So it seems like a drastic cut to that line item, but I think that's a pretty good number. And even with the services, if we go over $11,000, we're able to supplement that with the revolving fund if we needed to, or we can find other funding sources from the town if we come into a big expense for services. But that we'll be fine there.
Any other comments? Okay. Very good. We'll move to capital planning.
So as we discussed before, that's just going to be on the agenda for the next few months, just because we're going to keep on going through series. So I'll be updating from time to time. There will be a capital planning meeting on Thursday. We met with the town manager as a department heads today to talk about that. And the town manager did suggest if you were a department that had multiple items on there for capital planning, like we've had in the past, or large items, then it would be worth attending. But otherwise, we don't necessarily need to. The meeting happens to be at 5 o'clock when I have some basketball sessions. So I'll talk to the chair offline to verify if he, really insists on me being there. But my understanding is because our request is one relatively small item, I don't think it's something that we necessarily need to attend to this initial meeting. Generally, what happens is after the initial meeting, they will then schedule departments that have either large requests or multiple requests to discuss those with them. I expect we probably won't be called in for our one small request.
Okay. All right.
Which again is a utility vehicle for those who have forgotten.
Yep. All right. Incidents.
The only thing I need to report on that is a past incident, and that involves something that's discussed at the last Parks meeting, and that was the agreement by the commission to go forward with a program that's serving the juvenile who did some damage to Field 6 with his vehicle doing donuts. So that meeting is actually tomorrow, and I'll be meeting with that program's coordinator, a representative from the Ayer Police Department. I don't think who else, the individual himself and probably their parent. And then we'll discuss all of the things that you discussed at the meeting yesterday, as far as what we're looking for from this individual in terms of what he can do for services or what we might want. I have notes taken from the last meeting about what that is, but that's the only incident that I have to report outside of one that Chris may want to report about from basketball. I'm not sure if it's a major thing or if that's even worth going into.
What about the basketballs and trying to?
Yes, just the policy change.
Yeah, so being the gym monitor for pretty much the whole day on Saturday, observed a lot of the kids accessing the basketballs that are in the rack during actual gameplay. So kids that aren't involved, that might just be there waiting for their game or siblings, they could get into the ball bin that's at the middle school by, kind of pushing on things like kids do. They're going to figure out a way to push something and break something, or not break, but kind of just get around it to get basketballs out. Many were spoken to by myself or other members of the ASYB board, taking them away. We had, it was an ongoing thing to the point where all of us that were there as gym monitors were saying, like, this is now something that we have to control. And one got away from a kid, of course it would, as he's dribbling on the sidelines during an actual game, and it rolled out onto the court, and he had to go chasing after it. And that's when I said, okay, we need to have a new policy. So I wrote up a policy. It was approved by the board that says that no one that is not involved in a current game can access the basketballs. If you bring your own, then you can't dribble it, pass it, shoot it. It sits with you and doesn't move. We also got a comment from one of the custodians at the school that said last week kids were dribbling out in the hallway and throwing the balls off the walls and hitting ceiling tiles. So it is at a point now that it has to be addressed with some consequences. So, the gist of the rule is you get one warning, and after that, if we have to speak to you again, you'll be asked to leave. And if you are a player in ASYB, you'll be suspended for the next game. Now, will we actually be looking to do that? I hope not. I know personally, if I speak to a kid and then have to speak to him again a little while later, I'm not going to go automatically 2 years suspended. It's going to be, something that's really just you're telling the same kid over and over again, and he's back talking. But I wanted to have some avenue of, hey, now you've reached the point where there's going to be consequences. So is it an incident? Not really, but it was something that, once I saw that ball roll out into the court and there was a chance of a real injury, I said, we got to handle this. So email went out to all the coaches to tell all their players. And I do want to mention to you, Jeff, now thinking about it, the board, we did kind of talk about it offline. And if you could I can write up something that you can send to the ASYB parents, just so they're aware of it too. So they can't say, well, I didn't know that. I would have told my son or my daughter not to do that, but I didn't know that. Instead of just relying on the coaches to get that message out. So that's my only incident to report. Okay, so if that's all the incidents, facilities requests.
None to speak of, Mr. Commissioner. Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you better apologize. I'm not just a regular old commissioner.
Sorry.
Okay, so there are any other items? I think we've hit everything on the agenda, unless anyone has anything to add before we figure out the next meeting.
Just on a note for the meetings during our department head meeting today, one thing that the select board and the town manager is going to be working on is trying to get a firm policy for boards to have a hybrid meeting policy going forward. Basically, it's more for meetings that aren't being offered online. So to do that with satellites, departments like ourselves, the library, council on aging, there may have to be some kind of investment to do that, to create a visual thing that can work, to have a camera available for all of that. But that's being discussed. More to come on that probably in the next month or two.
Yep. All right. Then I guess we're at the point to figure out our first meeting of 2024.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Chair, one more point if I could bring up.
Sure.
I did plan on taking a vacation on the week of from December 23rd through January 1st. So I'm still going to check around a little bit and come in, but I just wanted to verify that I was intending on putting in a request for those dates.
Of which you'll be volunteering on the nature area. So you said during your vacation time.
Whether from
Yeah. That's always iffy that week. Okay. Yep. Sounds good. Basketball is on its holiday break, so that won't interfere with anything with basketball. So sounds good to me. So the third Thursday, if we go back to that kind of traditional meeting time, would be the 18th of January.
Yeah.
Does that work?
Yep, works for me.
I can do it.
The only thing I have on my calendar, there is a middle school game at Gardner at 4:30, but I should be able to get back in time. So I'll keep it at 7:00, and if we get closer to that date, closer being like a week or two beforehand, and it looks like I won't be able to get back in time, I'll let everyone know. But yeah, if 7 p.m. Back at the Parks Building on the 18th of January, I'll put that in the calendar. All right, well, that was an efficient meeting. We started at 7:15 and we're still done by 8:00.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well done, guys.
All right, well, very good. I'll take a motion to close.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry because I didn't get a chance to mention this. Sarah did text me to say that she couldn't attend tonight due to a concert that her children were attending.
Okay. All right. Oh, and there you go. I meant to put that up when I was talking about Rec Night. That's the flyer that has gone out. So just to let all the commissioners, if you haven't seen it already, that's what we're putting out there. All right.
I don't think we need to do a roll call to adjourn. I think we can just, somebody makes a motion and you can call it. Aye.
Make a motion to close meeting.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thanks, everyone.
All right.
Thanks,
Very
Chris.
good. Good meeting.
Thanks,
Good
guys.
job.
Good
Have a
night.
good night.
All right. Have a good
See you,
night.
everyone.